call the meeting to order. This meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Ferndale School Board of Education being held on Monday, January 27th, 2025. Our meeting is being video recorded and will be posted on the Ferndale Schools YouTube channel. All meetings in the Ferndale schools are held in public in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Printed documents discussed in tonight's meeting are available to the public upon request, with the exception of any information protected by student or employee privacy rights. Board meeting information is posted on our website at www.ferndaleschools.org. If you do not have internet access and need information, please contact the board offices at 248-586-8652 by Thursday of the week prior to the meeting, and district staff will do their best to work with you. Item 1.1, roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Crumrine.
Here.
De La Verne.
Here.
Hart.
Here.
Kaiser. Here. Malner.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
President Dookie.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1.2, approval of the agenda. After review of the agenda, are there any items that anyone wants to update? Then without objection and with unanimous consent, the agenda is approved. Which brings us to item 2, Chartwell's mid-year presentation.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Nella Schock. I'm the area director for Chartwell's in the Detroit area, for those that don't know me. This is Paige Fleming, your on-site director, and this is Jamie. She is our production supervisor, and she's a rock star, so we wanted her to come and get some kudos tonight for some of the things that she's been doing. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So today we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at and how many kids we're serving. We're going to talk about our new management team here at Ferndale and the fresh perspective that they bring. We're going to look at some of the grants that we have won over the last couple of years, and then also just show you guys some of the things that we've been doing and what's to come. So if you look at this, we have significantly increased our meal counts year over year, and for this year we are projected to meet that number that you see at the bottom, the 455,000 meals. I'm thinking it's going to go a little higher than that, but what this tells us is the kids are eating our food and that they're eating in general, right? We want to make sure that they're eating. We want to make sure that they are nurtured enough to, absorb all the great education that they're receiving. So we're very happy about this number. Okay, so some of the things that our new management team has brought. So Paige started, March of last year? And so the advice that I gave her when she first came on board was to just kind of learn and absorb what's already been going on, right? And then at the start of the school year, she was free to make whatever changes she wanted to make. And so we started that. We had a huge food safety training with the entire team. We always do food safety trainings every year, but this was like a really big one that we brought in outside people for. Our regional chef came and did a lot of education and demos and all that kind of stuff. We also added some new concepts to the menu this year. We added a deli station, which think Subway, but we are baking our own bread. So the kids are getting fresh baked bread. We're doing the same thing at the pizza station. So we, instead of it just being a true pizza station, it's more of an Italian station. So every day at the pizza station, they can receive pizza or pasta, and we also have fresh baked breadsticks there. And then, this is where I'm going to give Jamie some kudos. She came over to us she's worked for us for how many years?
Going on 10th. I'm in my 10th.
10th year. She came over from Hazel Park. She was on my team at Hazel Park, and when she came, one of the first things she did was attack breakfast. And so she just really looked at breakfast and tried to see where we had some improvements to make, and she just added a bunch of variety, and we have seen a massive increase in breakfast participation overall. So thank you, Jamie. All right, we can move on. So just a little bit of some of the grants that we've won. We've won a No Kid Hungry grant, which has brought Unox ovens to all of our schools. If you don't know what those are, they are a really amazing oven that does more than just bake, right? So they can steam, they air fry, they can proof dough. So when we're making our fresh baked bread, we can utilize the Unox ovens. So they're just a really great piece of equipment that adds a lot more value than just your normal standard 2-deck oven. We also added a new serving line from United Way grant that was put in at FHS in middle school. And then The 10-cent a meal program is a really great program in Michigan where we can offer local produce, and we've been doing a lot of that. And just recently, Paige has signed up to start trying to do dry beans here, so more local Michigan produce outside of the apples and the potatoes and the other things that we serve from Michigan, but just trying to expand that and offer more fresh ingredients. And then the Cool School Points is just a really cool, fun program that they have for directors. When you buy a product, you get a coupon and you get to put it in a website, and after you get so many points, you can buy pieces of equipment or tools to make your team's job easier. So that's what those are. And so just a little bit about our on-site team. So this year we added an executive chef. Her name is Star. She couldn't be here with us tonight, but she's awesome. We added Jamie, our production supervisor. She was a replacement. We've always had that position, but she's really added a new level of value to the program this year. And then we've promoted a bunch of people. We've hired on, we used a temp agency at times, and we've hired on employees from the temp agency, which is awesome. So just really, really great staff that we have here at Ferndale. I'm going to kick it over to Paige, who's going to talk about some of the surveys that we've done and some of the things that we've been doing to kind of improve what we're serving based on the results of that.
Hello. No. Okay. So we surveyed the students, and one of the things that we found was we could do better with communication. We do offer lots of local produce, but the students aren't always aware of that, and we are looking to do a better job of educating the students on, our local produce. We buy from a local vendor. I know you wanted to talk about the Apple Crunch Day. So Apple Crunch Day is a day in October where all of the schools that choose to participate in Michigan, it started as them taking a bite of an apple at the same time, everyone to get the experience. But what we did was go to our local vendor and get different types of Michigan apples to serve throughout the schools, so the students could learn more about that. I'm sorry, guys, I cannot see that.
Use your cheat sheet.
Thank you.
Right here. So another thing too is, Paige was talking about communication. One of the things she was saying is that we offer a lot of the things the students were asking for, but they're not aware. So we partnered with our marketing team, our corporate marketing team, and we are doing what we're calling a We Heard You campaign. So you'll start seeing more about that in the next month or so. We're just in the beginning of it, process of it, but we're basically going to take all of the results and all of the things that we have started implementing or are going to implement, and we're gonna just like communicate it out big time using social media, using signage, whatever we can do. And part of that will be identifying the local produce that we're serving in a way where when you walk on the serving line, you'll see that this is from Michigan. So that's one of the big efforts that we're making with the survey results.
And I just also wanted to point out, so we've got on here, we found out that the students aren't aware of the regulations for providing a meal, what constitutes as a meal. So Jamie and I spoke at the PTA meeting, what was it, 2 weeks ago, to explain to the parents, give examples. We played like a little fun game with them so they could see whether the options that we put up, would that constitute as a meal or not. So just so they can know, they can start the kids out young, because it was for lower and upper. And then you can go to the next slide. And so we also surveyed our staff, and we learned that they just do not want to eat the same meals that the kids are eating. Some of them don't know that we even offer a meal to them for them to purchase or eat with the students. So one thing that we were looking at was creating a menu for staff to order just specifically for them. We also have lots of on-the-go meals that we will be offering them currently. We've moved into the Dale to start offering meals during lunchtime to catch teachers and staff that never come down into the cafeteria. Did you want to talk about Big B? Okay. We also have started serving Big B coffee to our staff and high school students. So that was one of the things I think our staff are really excited about. We're just working on getting everyone to come down and experience it. Okay, so you can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so these are just some of the concepts that we do. So this one is called Mood Boost. It's focused on the lower elementaries. We are providing different foods that affect your mood. So we have like happy, alert, calm, strong, confident, and smart. So whenever we choose a certain concept, we'll correlate certain foods that will make you feel more confident or stronger, you know. And this picture up top is our staff at lower elementary. And those are just the items that they served for that week. So I want to say we did it.
7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks. And we did it both at upper and lower. Unfortunately, lower are the only ones who wanted to take pictures for us, but you can move on to the next. And at FHS and UHS, we've been doing the Global Eats concept where we bring different cultures and foods to the students so they can experience it. So we have this set up that we've also done for, how long have we done that for?
So we started this when Lindsay was still here.
Months.
So we started it last year at the beginning of the last school year. We rolled it out for all of the state of Michigan. So this is like the second time they're seeing it around, but we're always adding new recipes and we're adding new cultures. So far we've done Mexico, Italy, India, Korea, and the Caribbean, and we're adding like a Mediterranean one coming up soon that's going to be called Mezza. There's a bunch of stuff on the horizon, and we partner with celebrity chefs for these. So what we do is we create the menu, we send them over to the celebrity chefs, and then they put their stamp of approval of authenticity on them to make sure that they, even though we have to follow USDA guidelines and we can't serve a lot of salt and we can't deep fry stuff, they can at least say you're staying true to the culture as best as you can within the guidelines.
Okay, and then next slide. So we also have been doing discovery kitchens where we introduce even more different types of foods and cultures to the students. So that one at the top left was Ras Al Hanout, spices over rice. So we did that one at University High School, as well as we had pumpkin overnight oats, and the top right with our chef Star and Felicia, we did a back to school night at lower elementary where we just showed some of the parents some mood boost samples.
So Discovery Kitchen, just as a more generalized understanding, is our educational program. So it's how we teach students about different foods, and we oftentimes send out recipes for foods that they can make at home, or give them examples. And the goal of it is there's like a stat, it's like a student has to see something like 4 times before they're comfortable with it, right? And so what we do is the goal here is to introduce them to new flavors and new ideas, and it's risk-free, right? They don't have to pick up and use their meal for the day to try something new and maybe not like it. So the goal is to have them taste it, and then when they see it on the menu, they'll be like, oh, I remember that, and that was good. I don't feel like I'm risking trying something new today because I already know I like it. So that's why we do Discovery Kitchen. It's just kind of like the educational piece of our program. And then not pictured, because Paige was actually very busy running this program with her team, that she didn't get any pictures, but we also do a program called Student Choice. And what that is where we put 2 of our concepts up against each other and let the kids vote for them in real time. And then whatever one wins shows up on the menu the next month. So do you want to say what you...
Yeah, so for December, we actually did 3 choices. We had like a barbecue option. What was the other one?
Big City Barbecue.
Big City Barbecue.
I think you did Chat House.
Yeah,
which is
Chat
Indian.
House. And then what was the other one? Mac and Cheeseology. Yeah. So basically, the sample was buffalo chicken mac. The Indian option or choice won, and we put that on the menu for this January. So we've been doing that. We've also just done another one.
And Flame One, which is a pretty much build your own burger
Yeah.
bar. So.
Right? You can go ahead. So we did surveys, but we're going to move to more of a focus group route as well as we move forward. And I think Paige had talked about maybe making like a subgroup from the wellness committee that's already established to do that. Just something to kind of get more intimate in front of kids to help them build the menus. We have a culinary training coming actually next Tuesday or Wednesday, the 5th.
Wednesday.
Our regional chef is coming. It's a PD day, so we are using it for PD for us as well. So he's coming in to do a culinary training with all of the middle school and high school staff for UHS, FMS, and FHS. And then serving line plans, our chef came in and actually spoke to Felicia at the beginning of the school year. He walked through an idea of what we have to kind of enhance the serving line, and he's put some drawings together that we've submitted to a company who is actually rendering those out so we can present them to you guys at a later date. But we're really excited about that project. And then Felicia came to us with a concern or a want for a sustainability program. So she and Paige took a field trip over to Royal Oak to see what they were doing. It's one of our districts. It's a very not super affordable program, right, for us. So we are starting with something kind of small. Paige is committed to starting next month. We are going to switch one of our elementary schools to plastic reusable trays where we're going to wash, and we're going to see how that goes. And if that continues to work, we'll continue to grow that throughout, and that'll be the start of our sustainability project here at Ferndale. And I think that might be it from us. If you guys have any questions, we're happy to hear from you.
Can I just say thank you for presenting? I was also at the PTA meeting, and I think you guys did a great job. And I think that school lunches get a bad rap, and I am just really impressed by all of this. And I think it's really cool, and I think a lot of people would be surprised. So hopefully we can keep getting the word out about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we're going to go hard on this We Heard You campaign, and we'll probably partner with the district to help us get the word out through principals or their communications and social media as well. But we're really, really excited about that, and I think it's going to bring a lot of value.
Last thing I wanted to say was at the PTA meeting and at the wellness committee, we heard that parents are not excited about the Fun Lunch name, so we have gone in.
We've already changed it.
to change it, so they'll see that on NutriSlice now.
What's the new?
It just says cold choice.
Yeah, lack of creativity on my part, but it says cold choice and then what the item is instead of Fun Lunch.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
So just to clarify, you may not have known about this conversation. So previously, the Fun Lunch was, give us an example of what a Fun Lunch might contain.
So we have one that's like a build your own pizza.
So the concern from parents was like the connotation behind this is fun and somewhat not as healthy as it could be. So why is it fun? And the other lunch that is more healthier is just the regular lunch.
And
right?
the reason why we branded it as a Fun Lunch, and it was a corporate decision, I didn't make the decision, but the reason is because when you're in school and you're talking to kids, it's like, do you want hot or cold? It's like kind of boring. So it's like, do you want a chicken sandwich or do you want the Fun Lunch? So that's like kind of what the idea was behind it, but I totally hear your point. And so it was an easy change. We overrode the name and all good. Yeah, no problem.
For that quick turnaround.
Yeah, for sure.
And Paige did the presentation that was similar to the one at PTA during the wellness committee, so we get another audience to hear how to build a reimbursable plate.
Yeah.
Right, a reimbursable
And she
meal.
quizzed us too.
I know, it was fun.
Can't be in the morning.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, item 3, building presentation cabinet. Okay.
Good evening. Can I have cabinet come up with me, please? Good evening. So each month, typically a school building will come up and do a building presentation. For the month of January, we thought it would be very important to understand some of the ways that the district specifically is living into the 5 pillars of excellence. So again, just want to ground us in our 5 pillars of self-reflection, transparency, attendance, collaboration, and data as a flashlight, not as a weapon. So beginning with self-reflection, and this is not an all-inclusive list, but just some things that we thought were very important to highlight specifically. I'll start off with self-reflection. So some of the ways that we are intentionally ensuring self-reflection happens across the district in my world is in ensuring that I'm holding monthly one-on-ones with each principal. And in those agendas, they are completely focused on all of the pillars, right? So we literally go down, talk to me about how fuel is living into our attendance goals. Talk to me about how lower is really honing in on data as a flashlight, et cetera, et cetera. We capture it and we actually compare month over month how we are doing, how we are growing and living into those goals. Inter-rater reliability, while inter-rater reliability is a new requirement for the state as far as how we're doing evaluations, we do above and beyond what the state is requiring. So instead of what the state requires that I do is go into a classroom and do an observation with the teacher. That is pretty much what the legislation states. We go above and beyond that and actually have a discussion and dialogue about the observation that we witnessed. What did we notice? And I try to connect it to what is best practice in Ferndale? What does quality and strong instruction look like to begin the conversations around norming what that actually looks like? Another area of self-reflection was the development of the working agreements, which was a conversation that began at the leadership retreat over the summer and continued until we all, as a leadership team, could agree upon how we were going to work together collaboratively and what we were committing to. So some of the things it drilled down to: response time. We, as a leadership team, will respond in 48 hours, et cetera, but just we had to reflect on what we were willing to commit to in order to get working agreements that we all agreed upon. Again, going along with the meetings, which are embedded with the 5 pillars, our leadership meeting agenda is completely guided with the 5 pillars. Specifically at the end, one of the areas I'm most proud of is at the end of each leadership agenda, we do talk about that particular meeting, what went well, what do we need to change next time, what did we do very, very well. And we make those adjustments for the next leadership agenda. And then finally, and not finally, but finally for this conversation, is SEL reflections at the end of our leadership cabinet. So those board members that have had one-on-ones with me, and those of you who haven't yet, they're coming. But we do SEL we do ask a SEL question. Those live in each of our district level meetings where we just connect. It's important for us to connect, and we make sure that we do that each and every time at the leadership and at the cabinet level. Some of that, SEL, socio-emotional learning. Thank you, no acronyms. And I am going to hand it over to Dawn, I believe, for transparency. Dawn and Tom.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Obviously, all of us on our leadership team live in all 5 of these pillars on a daily basis. But as we were talking about which ones we most live in or which ones speak most to us, for us in finance and HR, really transparency is a big one for us. And so as Dawn and I spoke, we identified a few key points that we wanted to highlight as we talk about transparency. And I'll let Dawn kick it off.
So if you ever go to the ferndaleschools.org website, you'll see on the right-hand side a pop-up, and it says Transparency Reporting. If you click on that, the top box is metrics. And if you click in there, there's all sorts of financial data you can find. It goes years back. The audited reports are back, I think 10 years. The contracts for the unions are posted out there. There's lots of information out there. That's out there. Then our audits is another way we're transparent. We have to have an audit every single year. And The auditors go through our books. They come out in June, and then they come back in August for a couple weeks, and then they're usually all done by the end of October. And they typically present the audit report at the November Board of Education.
We've also, in the last 2 years, started a regular practice of meeting on a regular basis with our employee groups. So for some of our groups, like FEA, for example, I meet with our FEA representatives once a week, just to touch base with each other, talk about issues that are coming up, but more so just to have general communication and ongoing communication. The same can be said for all of our employee groups. So we've done a good job of establishing those lines of communication, and that speaks to transparency because of that rigorous honesty that we practice in those meetings. We're also starting over the next month looking at our second year of zero-based budgeting, and I'll let Dawn talk about that for a minute.
Zero-based budgeting is when we take our budget and we just kind of start from a zero, and then we send it to department leaders, and they can compare prior year data to what they think they're going to spend next year, but they can look at like the vendor, the cost of things, and kind of just looking at it at a more, what do you call that? I don't know, deeper level than just rolling it over and saying, oh, you had X amount last year, you're going to have X amount this year. But kind of looking at it and seeing, like, do we need this? What do we spend it on? More analysis.
Absolutely. A couple other key areas that we highlighted as we talked about how we're living into transparency. Within our cabinet team, we have several newsletters that go out on a regular basis to our employees or to our leadership groups. And even those like teaching and learning and special education have outstanding ones that a lot of us will kind of piggyback on. So if I have something HR related, I make sure I get it to Tom Mays so he can put it out in his teaching and learning update, and as well as special education through Ms. Bird. We mentioned open meetings just because that's what we have. We have open meetings all the way from your meeting down to the smaller meetings that we have. We have agendas set for every meeting, and we're very transparent about what transpires in those meetings. We feel like the interdepartmental meetings and the ongoing communication we have with each other within our central office team is very powerful. Just this morning, our HR and our finance teams met for our weekly meeting, and they're really powerful times for us to be transparent with each other, trade information with each other, support each other through issues that we have coming up, and that's just one example. So those interdepartmental meetings and the way that we, for example, prepare for negotiations, prepare for board meetings, that's all very collaborative and very transparent. And finally, we outlined a new process for open enrollment this year. Open enrollment for benefits happens in November every year, and we really revamped things this year. There were a couple of minor, there were a couple of issues that came up, but for the most part, we had a great open enrollment period this year. So those are just a few examples of how we're living in transparency as a central office team. I don't remember who's next, I'm sorry.
Good evening. Good evening. Well, from the perspective of school community relations and pupil accounting, attendance actually weaves its way through a lot of the functions that we touch. So for this presentation today, we wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to do to enhance our marketing around encouraging students to come to school and using some of the leverage resources from Attendance Works and some of the data so that parents are informed in terms of how just important it is for their kids to come to school. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing with MyStar, our system, our student information system or database around tracking attendance and making early interventions for those students who are chronically absent. So just going by the bullet, the promotion and awareness, we've become aware of some very good resources that we can actually brand and utilize in our marketing materials. We can add our branding and give these out at grade level to encourage parents to make sure their kids are in school and are not chronically absent. And some of the key points that a parent might want to know, especially in the younger grades or in the early years, is that attendance is not viewed as so important when a parent can excuse a student, keep the student home. But 17% of students, just 17% of students can read at grade level after third grade if they're chronically absent in K and first grade. So those young years where students miss a lot of their school, perhaps because of jobs, it's very important for them to get to school. And that touches a little bit more on my department as well, because we have McKinney-Vento and the after-school child care program. Those two programs are critical that we have early intervention with those students, because we see that 2.5 students or 2.5 students out of 10 of the homeless students have chronic absenteeism. So we're fortunate as a district, we have a resource who's intervening, and we have transportation provided by a transportation department to make sure those students are getting to school on time. And then finally, we've started a MyStar project where we're learning about all the different things that MyStar can do for us as a district, not just with enrollment, not just with data management, but also on tracking interventions. And so we're fortunate that we're starting that project as well. So for attendance, it's important, and for the teachers and for the staff members, the data shows that attendance matters for our staff in terms of behavior infractions. Teachers who show up, even though they have the days, when I led a building, I would always say, you have your days, but your attendance matters, because when you're not here, there's a different culture in the room. So just to say, we have different spokes. Tried to bring you down the line of what we're going to do with some visual imaging and marketing, but attendance touches and weaves through all aspects of school community relations. Thanks.
Okay, I'm like, is mine next? Well, good evening. I will say I'm Alicia Bird. I'm the Special Education Director. I don't think I've spoken before this group before, so I wanted to introduce myself. Would you like me to wait? Okay. Okay, so collaboration. So when I first accepted this position, I wanted to be intentional about a few things. One was partnership with principals. Another was respectful communication with team members and getting all the necessary voices at the table, as well as giving clear direction on key decisions in the special education department. So one thing I shared during my first interview was how I communicate and collaborate with team members, and always wanting to make sure that people have a clear understanding what is expected after we communicate. And I said, clear is kind. So that's kind of been my tagline. A lot of people have reminded me that made an impression during my interview. So I will give you a few examples of how I'm collaborating with team members and colleagues. So when I first started, I had initial meetings with each building leader and my special education team. I also had initial meetings with each department director, all of my cabinet team members. I continue to hold biweekly meetings with Tom Mays of Teaching and Learning to make sure that special education and general education are on the same page. I also have biweekly meetings with Human Resources to just make sure that we are meeting the mark where it comes to staffing. I started monthly communities of practice for all of our ancillary groups. We have 4 OTPT, social work, speech language, and psychologists, as well as our teacher consulting group. Each building has weekly special education team meetings within themselves, either myself or our special education supervisor. We try to attend those as much as possible, just so we can give on the ground in real time advice when they have questions and concerns. I'm also doing monthly problem resolution committee meetings with the FEA, the teacher representative for the FEA for special education. I'm doing monthly staff newsletters that many of you have probably seen. We're allowing opportunities for parents to interact with staff and administrators in our department through our parent advisory committee meeting. Our next meeting is tomorrow. It is virtual. I also have done staff surveys to just get the voices in the room. So what's working for you? What concerns do you have? What could I do differently for our department? And one thing that I didn't put on there, but I was invited by the elementary PTA to their meeting. Special education did a presentation in December. And then the secondary PTO, I will be meeting with that group in March or April. So just trying to be present, be invested, be involved in the community.
Okay. Is that my slide? Is that my slide? All right, good evening, everyone. I apologize, I can't see very well with or without the glasses. So Felicia Wright, I think my work is just inherent to collaboration, right? I can't do anything without working with other departments, with school leaders, or even with the community, right? So ultimately, the Division of Operations, we hold weekly meetings with our operations team, specifically facilities and also transportation and food service as well. Is there, we problem solve, we share information, we plan for the upcoming week. We're holding our wellness committee meeting. So I mentioned that Paige did a presentation that was shared with the PTA. She was asked to do that presentation again for the wellness committee members. And we also had a really lively discussion with respect to technology use in schools. We've also been invited as the Wellness Committee to the upcoming PTA resource fair. That's the end of the month on February 26th. If you don't know about that, February 26th, from 3 until 6:30, I believe, or 6 to 7:30. I also hold the Facilities Planning Committee. I really appreciate that committee. That group of people have helped to inform our bond proposal that's coming up. We've listened to their voices. They're a really lively bunch. They provide really valuable feedback to our proposals. We've been able to pivot based on their feedback, so it's been extremely valuable. Teacher voice in the 2020 bond implementation. So we're still working on our 2020 bond. We're still in Series 2 of that existing bond. And we invite the teachers, if it impacts their area of instruction, such as art or band, we invite them to the bond meeting, and they give us feedback on the schematic designs, and we've made changes based on their feedback, and they've been very appreciative being brought to the table, and it's actually been valuable to us. Also, I hold monthly meetings with the principals. It really is, tell me your problems. Okay, I'll have the list and I'll go back and I'll take care of it outside of the work order process. But it really is a good opportunity. And I speak frequently with the principals, so formalize it in a meeting. We also partnered with our local law enforcement and our principals on our emergency operations plans. So if you're not aware, Michigan State Police revised this template for our school operations plan, and it was just released in September. And so school districts have been charged with revising their emergency operations plans. Immediately, I sent out notice to principals and to our partners, our school partners, school district partners, and to our local law enforcement, and they were on board. And we've been meeting weekly, which has been phenomenal. Oak Park has been involved, Ferndale's been involved, Pleasant Ridge has been involved. It really has been a true partnership in that work, and we're still working. That's it, in collaboration. Just every day, again, the work that's done in the Division of Operations requires collaboration.
Good evening, everybody. Tom Mace, Director of Teaching and Learning. As the other cabinet members have mentioned, these 5 pillars, they live in all departments, teaching and learning as well. Just a few bullets of how, not only at the cabinet level, but across the district and in the buildings, we are trying to live into data as a flashlight. Should have brought a flashlight or two. So one of the things that we do across the district twice a month in our weekly professional learning communities is called the Student Work Protocol. And what that is one of the teachers on the team will bring a few examples of student work. And without providing too much commentary about this is right or this is wrong or this is good or it's not so good, teacher shares the examples of work. with their team, and team can provide feedback on the work. A lot of times it's through asking questions, and the goal of the student work protocol is not to improve student work directly, but to improve teaching through the lens of the work that's been examined. So again, we do that twice a month, and that happens from kindergarten through high school. Okay. Another way that we look at data is with our school-wide data protocols. If you've been on the board for a while, you've had the thrilling, exciting pleasure of watching my 282 slides. Camille wouldn't let me bring those tonight, but no. So, we share those slides with you. We share them with the principals, and we ask the principals, what do you notice about the data? What questions does the data pose to you? What questions do you want to know more about by looking at this data? And then the principals repeat that process in their buildings, okay? So they do that after each of our benchmark periods, which happen not in the spring, but fall and winter. We'll do that work with the principals, and the principals will do that work with their staffs, okay? The student work protocol and the building-wide data protocols have been the same for the past 2.5 years. We are intentional about keeping those protocols the same so that we don't use bandwidth on how do I do this protocol, but there's comfort and there's familiarity so teachers can dig into the data. Okay. Another way that we're looking at data is through the Michigan Continuous Improvement Process, MyKIP. A couple years ago, the state of Michigan changed the way they did the school improvement process. Used to be principals would make a plan and then they kind of put some stuff together at the end to try and pull it together. Now we start with a data story. So the very first step in our district improvement plan is to look at data. Each building looks at data and they create a building data story that drives the improvement process. What does the data tell you? What does the data tell you we need to get better at? Okay. Let's see. Data and assessment literacy. About a year ago, Camille and I had some conversations about the importance of teachers and principals understanding more about data and assessment literacy. Which types of assessment should generate which types of data, and how should those pieces of data be used? So we brought in Dr. Stephen Sneed from Oakland Schools, and he is leading our principal group through professional learning on data and assessment literacy. So that's ongoing throughout the year. And the last piece of information up there, My School Data is a public website that houses lots and lots of data of all different types from any district across the state, but it gives us information on attendance rates, graduation rates, college success rates, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another way that we're looking at data and trying to get better. Thanks, everybody.
So as we wrap up, I think that the headline here is that the 5 pillars is our opportunity to model best practice, right? So that is not just me telling teachers you have to focus on these areas. No, it's embedded in every level of the district. So just a few more key supports and key structures is the dynamic plan process, right? So we are in the middle of the dynamic plan, which is absolutely could fall under one of our umbrellas of 5 pillars. We spoke already about our leadership meetings, as well as cabinet retreat, just opportunities to kind of norm around these 5 pillars so that it can be something, not just a bunch of pretty words, but it is something that we are living and that we really and truly believe in and are bought into. So I won't go through each of these, but these are also key supports within cabinet from each of our departments that are supportive of the 5 pillars. So again, we could have absolutely skipped over January and went to February for a building presentation, but again, it was really important that the board, that the community understand and see some of the ways, this is just some of the ways that the 5 pillars lives in our work. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We have a question. We have a question.
Oh, yes, I should have asked, excuse me. Are there any questions?
Oh, do we have any schools on the index?
On any schools on the?
On the index, remind me.
Yes, we have 2 schools. We have Tri-County Education Center, which is labeled as a CSI, Comprehensive Supports and Intervention School, and Ferndale High School is a TSI, Targeted Supports and Intervention School.
Any other questions? Thank you, Cabinet. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 4, the Allen Group Owners Representative Presentation.
Good evening. How's everybody? Happy New Year to everybody. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to the board today. My name is Nicole Hunter, and I'm the managing shareholder of the Allen Law Group in Detroit, Michigan. I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
And I'm Sean Farrell. I'm a senior associate with the firm.
So how did we get here? It's our understanding that you guys have currently a bond program that you're working through, getting some construction work done for some of your schools and repairs and possibly some new construction. We were asked to come and do a presentation just to talk a little bit about our experience and talk a little bit about some of your options as it relates to determining whether you want to consider taking an owner's rep on to sort of be as your liaison between your construction folks and the school district and what that looks like. So we were happy to come aboard and just talk to the board about some of that. We understand we're not going to take up much of your time. I know it's 7:45 and everybody's work today, so we'll go to the first slide. Oh, is there? The who we are. You can go back down. Okay. So who we are, the firm has been in existence for about 4 years. It was created by our principal, Floyd E. Allen, as he had an extensive experience in labor and employment. He went to work for the city of Detroit for a number of years under Coleman Young. And then it was from there that he sort of spawned out because as he began to get more clients needed more than labor and employment. So it began to grow into various areas, and clients and public entities is mostly where a lot of our work is done. From there, it went into growing the firm, so it was more than just Floyd, and it has expanded to what it is today. I'm happy to say that I have, in fact, been working for the firm for about 27 years. I've been actually practicing for 18 years. I started as a student from DPS. And sort of grown from there, and now I'm the managing shareholder of the firm. So I'm very happy to be there. We are located in the city of Detroit in the Midtown area, right across from the Fisher Building. We were in the Fisher Building for a number of years and just recently moved across the street. And so we're enjoying it there. We have an extensive experience in construction and real estate management. I'm happy to say that I'm much involved in a lot of that. My practice has, it's been wide in a lot of areas, but it started in commercial real estate as to begin. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've worked on, some of the more noteworthy projects. One of those being, we worked on the demolition of the Joe Louis Arena in terms of, we had a project management team. I am a part of that project management team. That was done through the Detroit Building Authority. And I work on all of the projects that spear through there, whether that be Little Caesars Arena, other things like that. So I have my hand in some of all of those projects. Another thing that we worked on, which is right down the street, we worked on the construction of the new State Fair Transit Center behind Myers down there. So that was a couple of year project. We're very proud that we completed that project. Serves the public well, and that was one of my noteworthy ones. I also worked on the demolition of over 1,000 homes in the city of Detroit when the mayor first got into office, and he was trying to get rid of a lot of the abandoned homes that were there. We worked on that project together. I worked with the contractors, worked on contractor disputes, worked on contractor agreements. I did compliance elements of that in terms of any asbestos, any environmental issues that may have come up. We've done a lot of development deals in terms of there is a new wave in the state of Michigan. There are a lot of mental health crisis centers that are being constructed around Wayne and Oakland County. I don't know if you've noticed. We've been involved with a lot of those projects and the construction of those buildings. I've done a lot of investigations into compliance issues as it relates to use of bond funds, waste of bond funds, whether there has been any fraud, abuse, anything like that. I've been involved with several of those. We'll talk about my experience personally, and besides the firm's experience, I've also done tons of construction contracts. I've done landlord and tenant issues. I've done historical landmark issues. I've done, a litany of things, compliance-related issues. In addition to having a Juris Doctorate, I have an MBA, so I have a lot of business side experience as well, specializing in accounting and that sort of thing. In addition to that, I am a certified compliance specialist for a national organization, and I'm certified as a project manager. So I can do any aspect of all of these projects. I've also served as an owner's rep for a couple of the projects that we've worked on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll let Sean give some on his experience.
Absolutely. So I work closely with Nicole in our real property and construction division at the firm. I wanted to note two projects that I'm currently working on, which I think bear on this matter. The first is, since the end of 2022, we've been representing Wayne County in their ARPA program. These were COVID funds that were issued to municipalities, counties, and the state for the public benefit. So Wayne County received about $340 million to go towards the public. As you can imagine, about 90% of that went towards construction projects. Notably, that's just Wayne County's contribution, so all of these construction projects have other investors as well. And so we are sort of the head legal compliance and oversight for the entire program, and so we're overseeing over billions of dollars worth of construction right now across Wayne County. The other project is we represent the Detroit Housing Commission. They are a HUD-funded entity that provides, housing for low-income residents and rental assistance. They have thousands of properties across Detroit. So we represent them in a variety of matters, including legal compliance. As you can imagine, the HUD regulations are very stringent, a lot like education. So we represent them. We do development agreements, property management agreements. We really handle a lot of their portfolio.
So let's talk a little bit about, we can move to the next slide. The difference between the owner's rep and a construction manager is you're making your decision. What I did was I did two slides, one sort of talking about what an owner's rep is supposed to do, and then one being what a construction manager does. It's my understanding that you currently have a construction manager that's sort of managing some of your projects. What the owner's rep does, it's just another layer or overlap of essentially what the construction manager does, essentially. They sort of act as the liaison administratively more so between what the construction folks are doing and what the district does. What oftentimes you find, you get an owner's rep when maybe the school district or the entity is too busy to deal with the day-to-day work that's being done by the construction folks. And so you designate someone to be sort of your owner's rep. Can you just represent us? Just bring the information back to us. We make decisions, and then you go back and communicate that to those folks. The construction manager pretty much does the same thing. So they manage every aspect of the construction project. They manage all of the various components under that, being utilities, being, they hire subcontractors to actually do the work. So the construction manager is, unless they're doing it at risk, but most times they hire subcontractors and those folks are doing the actual work. The construction manager is managing all aspects of that, and then they come and report to someone at the district. The difference here is the owner's rep is just that person, that layer in between you guys and what they're doing. Typically what the difference is in the most significant differences in the cost. And you can go to the next slide. So what I did was sort of a pros and cons list of what an owner's rep is. So if you're going to get one, they're good because you want one who knows construction. You want one who knows project management. You want someone to know the risks involved in terms of managing construction projects and what potentially could happen. They help the owner make informed decisions based on industry expertise and experience. That's pretty much what your construction manager is being paid to do as well. But they have more so experience in the construction side than what typically you would find in an owner's rep. They could have it, sometimes they don't. Owner's rep can manage the day-to-day responsibilities of the project, freeing up the owner's time. Again, if the district is tied up in other projects, so there's educating students, they could hire an owner's rep to come in and sort of act as that person in between. But again, there's a cost associated with doing that. And depending on whatever your budget is, you could be adding an additional layer of costs that may not be necessary depending on your relationship with your construction manager. They could handle interactions with all stakeholders, reducing the complexity of communication. Again, they would go and make those communications to the community, talk about the project, what are we doing, and it sort of adds a layer between the board where the board may not have to answer questions, the superintendent may not have to answer questions directly. They're that person that does that for you. Monitors costs, reviews contractor invoices, ensures the project stays within budget. That's another aspect of the owner rep that they could do. They could manage whatever the construction manager's budget is. Typically, when you start the project, there's a budget put in place by the CM anyway, because they're getting a percentage of whatever that construction budget is. There's always change orders, and so that budget adjusts. What the owner's rep could do could be sort of an oversight of that to make sure that the district is getting what it's paying for. Evaluates and negotiates change orders and protect the owner's financial interest. I just, explained that. What are some of the cons to an owner's rep? Hiring an owner's rep adds to the overall project budget as their services are typically charged on an hourly, monthly, or project-based basis. Typically, in what I've seen, owner's reps usually run 1% to 2% of the total construction budget. Anything more than that, you would really need to see what you're paying for in terms of the services. Because you're paying the construction manager a considerable amount of money to manage the construction. So to add another higher percent on top of that is kind of a duplication of costs. If the responsibilities of the owner's rep overlap with the construction manager, it can lead to redundancy and confusion. Again, this would depend on what kind of relationship the board and the superintendent and Ms. Wright have with their current construction manager. Maybe sometimes the owner's rep can come in and sort of mitigate any issues in between the district and the construction manager if there are issues that exist. So, but it may cause confusion because then who is the person who's sort of running the project? Is it the owner's rep or is it the CM? And that might cause conflict between the two. If overly involved, the owner's rep might micromanage contractors or other team members, causing tension and inefficiency. Again, this runs into the issue if an owner's rep comes in and they start micromanaging the CM, and maybe the CM has more experience in the construction side of things, they may feel a kind of way if someone who doesn't have as much experience comes in and dictates how the project is run. The owner still needs to monitor and manage the owner's rep to ensure they're performing their duties effectively. Again, even though you hire an owner's rep, someone here at the district needs to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you're really not getting out of the business of managing, you're just managing at another level. So now you're managing an owner's rep, you're managing a CM, you're managing subcontractors as well. So the district never completely gets out of it because you want to make sure that the owner's rep is doing what they're supposed to be doing as well. You can go to the next slide, sir.
Should we advance?
Yes, yeah, there we go. So one of the questions that was posed to us is what else is out there? What else can we do that might not be at the level that you would need an owner's rep? One of the things that I suggested is maybe just bringing someone in as a consultant to help with the compliance aspect of it. Being that person, I believe the most important parts of the project is making sure you're getting what you're paying for in terms of your scope, and that you're being billed what you were told you're going to be billed in the budget and in the contract. So you could bring someone in to sort of help with that aspect of it. Just help me go over these change orders. Just help me to make sure, attend the meetings, make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't need you to be at every aspect of what's going on, but the most important, the ones that is wrought with possibility of waste, is wrought with people going crazy with change orders, 400 and 500 different change orders. Those are the things that I really want to focus on because I want to make sure we stay within the budget in terms of what we're supposed to be spending and that we're getting what we're paying for. So those are, probably the best places that you want to bring a consultant in if you need help, someone with construction experience to do that. So how can ALG help? As I indicated at the beginning, Sean and I have a considerable amount of experience in a lot of different areas in terms of construction. So as we said, we've served as owner's rep in many cases, but we've also done a lot of compliance. And if you feel as though you've already into the project, you're already getting a lot of the work done, whether you need to bring an owner's rep in at this point in the project is something that the board want to consider. If you feel that you need some more oversight, then maybe the compliance consultant route may be better for you. It certainly probably would be cheaper because they're only working in a limited scope. They're not over the entire project of what you have and costing, adding to your overall budget. We can serve as legal counsel and look at documents. If you just want us to review some documents, we can do that as well, given our experience in construction. That's an aspect as well. Or business consultants. If you need us to just come in and give advice as it relates to how this affects you in the business side of things, we can do that as well. So we're open to any possibility that the district would need us in. And, I hope this information is good, not even if you use us or if you use anybody. That's something that, you as the board should know as you're beginning to negotiate with whoever. So we're open to any questions you might have, and hopefully we didn't take up too much of your time.
If you throw out time as one of the constraints, just assuming that's not an issue, which I know not, but is there a bar for level of whether it's complexity of project or cost of project where you sort of see this is where it starts to just make sense from a level that needs to
in terms of dollars being spent? I haven't seen it in terms of dollars being spent. I've seen it in terms of the complexity of the project. If it's something that, maybe someone locally or in the district it's outside of their realm and they don't feel comfortable managing the project, then I've seen in those cases, hey, it's above my head. Let's bring in an owner's rep to help me. I really don't want to get into this. Or in the case of if you have contention between someone at the district and the CM, and you need someone to sort of be that mitigation person between the two to help us communicate better, I've seen in that case, but I've not seen it based on dollar amount. It's really a personal decision in terms of what you want.
And then, to your knowledge, and we can do the research, any other local school districts around here that are using owner's rep for their bonds?
I just finished working with Pontiac. They have some bond dollars, and they do not have an owner's rep, and they have an extensive amount of repairs and things that they're doing. I believe Barton Mallow was originally their CM, and they just replaced them with a new one. Again, because of the change order situation. Because, you know, the CM was working with someone in the district who may not have had the experience that they needed, and so then they weren't watching what that person was doing, and so that was that situation.
Could you speak more towards how you could help or advise on the construction side on the influx of prices after COVID?
In terms of
whether
it's standard or not, I mean, I think across the board, everybody's increased, and you know that's a thing. And Sean, I know you've seen more of that. If you could speak to some more of that.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with procurement and legal compliance for procurement. And so when you're dealing with public funding, it's like public bond funding as well, you have to have competitive bids. And so that's really the bedrock for trying to get the best price you can, whether it's for goods or services. You're going to look for a robust but compliant competitive bidding process to make sure that you're getting something that's good, but you're getting it for the best price. And so we do a lot of work making sure that our clients are compliant, but also helping them find the best prices.
Okay.
I think we need to back up because this is not the very first presentation we've had on owner's rep. We had a presentation last month. Was it last month? A couple months ago from another firm, Plant Moran, Real Point. And so we were asked, Camille and I were asked if we knew of anyone else that could provide owner's representation. And we were familiar with this one.
I don't have a question, but I do want to thank you for presenting and informing and educating us on what our options are. Yeah. And I want to thank you too for bringing another firm before us. I really think this will give us a lot more information to go on before we make a decision and decide which way to go. So, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 5, Eagle Excellence presentation.
Good evening. So this is my favorite part of the agenda, where we have an opportunity to recognize some truly outstanding members of our team who embody the spirit of excellence that drive Ferndale Public Schools. These individuals go above and beyond every day, making an extraordinary impact on our students and our community. And first, I am going to call up Mr. Mason Finning, who was nominated. And I'm going to read his Eagle Excellence nomination because I think it's very, very powerful. So it says, I would like to nominate Mason Finning for the Eagle Excellence Award in recognition of his outstanding contributions as an educator. Mr. Finning demonstrates remarkable demonstration and hard work, consistently supporting all students at Fuel, not just those in his class. He maintains an upbeat atmosphere and encourages everyone, even during challenging times. Mr. Finning's engaging personality makes him a pleasure to be around, and he is always willing to go above and beyond to enhance the school community. His passion for inspiring students and fostering positive relationships is evident in all of his endeavors. Mr. Finning exemplifies excellence in every aspect of his work. Thank you, Mr. Finning. We have something for you, but we have one more person here who was also nominated, and I would like to call up Elizabeth Hagan. So, Ms. Hagan goes beyond the classroom time for our students and new teachers. She stays late to ensure morning routine and sign-in sheets are ready for our young adults. With a smile on her face while taking care of most challenging tasks with our technology. This is Liz's second year as a job coach. She works side by side as a co-worker with our students at Henry Ford Hospital, working in the kitchen, learning new skills, along with our students with an industrial dishwasher and other kitchen duties. In our CBIs, Liz can be found at Kroger, a movie theater, or Starbucks, ready to help others shop or place a food order when needed. She is one of the factors that keep our room organized and entertained. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hagan. I just want to say, both of these individuals, I personally can attest to also being equal excellent. So thank you. We have pins for you. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I say, as a teacher, the food program's been awesome. I eat lunch with my kids every day.
Yes.
I don't get to, hang out with them.
He does.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, that brings us to item 6, public comment. This is a time for public participation in the meeting. The Board of Education intends for the public to have many opportunities to address the board and administration of their school district. These include email, phone calls, face-to-face meetings, community gatherings, public hearings, and other public meetings. We welcome individual and group input into the important issues that confront our schools. As noted at the top of the agenda, this is a meeting of the school board open to the public. We want to provide fair and impartial guidelines for participation as required by the Open Meetings Act and to encourage transparency and equal treatment for everyone in attendance. We also recognize that an effective meeting facilitates better decisions and promotes openness by allowing more people to stay for the full length of the meeting. To meet these goals, please note the following. We ask that you identify yourself and list contact information on a comment sheet to help administrators follow up with you on your comment. If you do not wish to do so in writing, please identify yourself at the podium. And if you need a response, please provide contact information with an administrator. I will call on people who have completed a comment sheet first. Each person will have one opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Comments or questions should be directed to the board president. Vice President Kaiser will raise her hand when your time is within a few seconds of expiring. The period of public comment is for both non-agenda items and issues on the agenda. Public comments will end at the close of this part of the agenda. Complaints about the staff should be made outside of board meetings and should follow the applicable board policy. Please contact the superintendent's office if you have any questions regarding this item. The board cannot respond to complaints about employees in public. This is meant to promote fairness to the staff person and complainant. The Ferndale Public Schools community acts with great civility toward one another. Please help us maintain that tradition during public comments. So I don't have any comment sheets. Is there anyone here for public comment?
Hi, good evening. I've spoken before. I'm Jessica Peruk. Tonight I'm here as a representative of the PTA Advocacy Committee. We realize it's Board Appreciation Month, so just wanted to get it on the record that we appreciate the work that you guys do. You've always acted in such a professional manner with such poise always, and that's not always the case with Public School Board of Ed, so we appreciate you guys, and we just want to welcome the new members too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment is now closed. Item 7, consent agenda. 7.1, request to approve minutes of the special meeting committee of the whole Monday, December 2nd, 2024. 7.2, request to approve minutes of the regular meeting Monday, December 16th, 2024. 7.3, request to approve minutes of the special meeting Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. 7.4, request to approve new hires, resignations, and transfers. 7.5, request to approve bills and accounts for December. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for questions or discussion later? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie. Seconded by Lisa. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Grumrine.
Here.
Delaverne.
Yes.
Hart. Yes. Kaiser. Yes. Mulner.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
President Ducey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just in case you didn't catch that, David is here. He did not say yes.
Yeah, I did it last week.
We got you.
I was gonna write big old yes. For a reminder.
With 7 yes votes, the motion passes and the consent agenda is approved. Item 8, action items. Please note that all action items being voted on tonight were discussed in depth at the Committee of the Whole meeting held on Monday, December 13th at 6 p.m. We invite and encourage community members to attend our Committee of the Whole meetings, which are also open to the public. 8.1, request to approve the resolution for budget amendment number 1.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to present the first amendment of the budget. So if you scroll up a little bit to the next page, there we go. This is the 24-25 amended budget by function by revenue. And the first column is the actual 23-24. The second column is the original budget 24-25. And the original budget was adopted in June of 2024. And then the amended 24-25 column is the budget amendment 1. And then the difference column is the difference between the original budget and the amended budget. So the local revenue decreased. If you look in the fourth column, in the difference, it decreased by $236,000. And I will explain more about these slides, a couple slides in. The first couple have a lot of numbers on them. But the state revenue increased by $1.2 million. The federal revenue decreased by $16,000, and the inter-district increased by about $84,000, which means total revenue increased by $1 million. So the next slide is the amended budget by function by expenditures. And the first column, again, is actual. So in instruction, which is comprised of instruction, added needs, and adult education, that is total instruction. That section increased by $917,000. The next section is support services. And that section increased by $495,000, which the biggest differences were in pupil support services and operations and maintenance. And then if you flip to the next slide, then this is the expenditures continued. And on this slide, we have community services and other financing sources. And so the total expenditures increased by $1.2 million. And so in the very first column, which is actual 23-24, we added to our fund balance where it says excess expenditures over revenue. We added $1.5 million to our fund balance. So in 23-24, our beginning fund balance was $10.2 million. And since we added money, the ending fund balance was $11.7 million. So if you go to the third column, you'll see that the beginning fund balance, or the ending fund balance, is now the beginning fund balance. And we are estimating that we're gonna lose, or we're gonna use fund balance by $2 million of fund balance. So our ending fund balance as of June 30th, 2025 will be $9.6 million, which is about 19% of fund balance. And that 19% is revenues over the fund balance. Then on this slide here, I just explain kind of what I just said about the fund balance. And that 11.7 represents the audited fund balance. The auditors presented the audit report in November. In 23-24, it was 24% of revenue. So the audited financials can be found on the transparency section of the Ferndale Public Schools website in the new Unitrix section. Okay, so here are the primary changes. So in the local revenue section, the primary changes were the decrease in 32N out of school time grant, a decrease in out of school time, another grant was decreased, and the increase in summer discovery grant. In the state revenue section, the original budget included a foundation of $9,808, but the foundation allowance for 24-25 is actually $9,608. So that was a decrease of $632,000, and we were using a blended FTE as full-time equivalent of 3,155 students. And then the FTE was budgeted at 3,160, but we blend them using unaudited fall count and a combination of spring count. So when we actually got our count, our blended count is 3,122 FTE full-time equivalent. So that was a decrease of 30 blended FTE. So that was a decrease in revenue of $294,000. The UAAL is unfunded actuarial liability. That increased $978,000. We had an increase in the GSRP grant, $448,000. And then our at-risk funding also increased. In the federal revenue section, the gear, we had an increase of $45,000 for the 11BB gear grant. And our Title I decreased a little bit. In interdistrict, we increased our PA 18 funding, which comes from open schools, and that was $75,000. So primary changes from the budget expenditures. There was an increase in salary expenses for the following union groups: FEA, which is the teacher group, APSFA, which is administrators, and FAES, which is the secretary group. Their contracts expired as of 6/30/24 and were renegotiated, and exempt also got an increase. We hired some new staff, a new kindergarten teacher. We hired that staff member based on enrollment numbers. We hired 2 new special ed teachers at FHS for $178,000, and 2 new special ed parapros and 1 special ed bus aide for $82,000. The GSRP grant increased by $445,000. We had an increase in at-risk funding of $628,000. Our general liability insurance went up. We are doing our dynamic plan, that's costing $57,000, and we had an increase in security of $32,000. And so when our revenues go up, our expenses also go up. So this is the primary changes from original budget expenditure by category. So if you look on the instruction line, that increased because of the GSRP grant and the summer discovery grant. In the added needs section, that increased because of new staff and the increase in at-risk funding. The pupil support services decreased because in the original budget, the 31AA grant, which is a safety and security grant, was all in this category, but it was redistributed to different functions in this amendment. School administration line increased due to new contract with APSFA, is the administrator contract. Operations and maintenance, that was due to the 31AA grant and salary increase. Transportation increase due to the 31AA grant, and the community line increased because the 2 Little Eagles classrooms moved to the instruction section. We didn't have any changes after the fact. This is a 25-26 budget update. The 31N mental health grant is ending on June 30th. That will be done. The ARP ESSER CIS, which is community in schools, is ending on June 30th. The 23G grant back on track is ending. The 31O grant is also ending on June 30th. And the 31AA grant, it's not ending, but we are going to get a reduction in funding of $337,000. And then other changes that will happen next school year, the UAW contract, United Auto Workers contract, is expiring December 31st. And the AFSCME contract, which is bus drivers, will expire June 30th of 26. Do you have any questions?
Dawn, just to confirm, you said that 31AA is supposed to reduce. Is there any, for sure, the 31NO, those are going away as of now?
As of right now.
Okay.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8.1, the request to approve the resolution for budget amendment number 1.
So move.
Moved by Jonathan.
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
Discussion.
Oh, any discussion on the motion?
So I just wanted to say that I appreciate the administrative and cabinet team and Dawn for being very conservative, especially when we had contract negotiations last year, because we've always had a healthy fund balance. There was concern, especially with ESSER funds going away, that we weren't quite sure where we would land. So I'm really appreciative that we still have a healthy fund balance because the recommended amount is 15%. And I know we were at 24%, but I think it was important that we meet our teachers and our staff in a way that shows our appreciation, but yet also gives us the safety net of a healthy fund balance. So I feel confident that we're in a good spot, so thank you all.
Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
De Laverne,
Yes.
Hart, yes. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mulner,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Crumrine.
Yes. I think I don't know why you went to me last. The repetition.
Yes,
somehow.
thank you. With 7 yes votes, the motion passes, and the consent agenda is approved. Item 8, approved. Item 8.1, the request to approve the resolution for budget amendment number 1. So, David, just to tell you about the way the voting happens, she starts alphabetically, and every time we vote, whoever voted first votes last. She just rotates through the list.
It wasn't to help me.
Yeah, it wasn't to help you. No.
Make sure I wasn't confirming my presence again. I'm here.
Item 8.2, the request to approve the 2025 bond proposal resolution.
Okay. So, as shared earlier, the school district is going to seek from the voters of Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, Oak Park, and Royal Oak Township approval for a new bond on the May 6th ballot, a special election ballot. This bond proposal will allow us to do a considerable amount of work at the Ferndale middle school, high school campus. It'll allow us to bring in those 21st century learning spaces that we've been so intentional about at the elementary school buildings, and what we've been able to do at TCEC, at Tri-County Educational Center, as well as what we're going to be doing this summer at University High School. We're also going to provide what we consider to be a clear distinction between the middle school and the high school, which is something that we heard from our committee members, right? So the middle school will be concentrated on the second floor of the building. The high school will be primarily on the first and third floor of the building. There'll be a dedicated band room for our middle school students to have their very own on that second floor. And so we contemplated the idea in concert with Mr. Jameson. He's been a part of this. I want you guys to know he's come to the meetings about changing his band room. So we're going to move his band room, the high school band room, from the back to the front. And if you can envision it, if you're looking at the student parking lot where the small trailer for the band, that's going to become the band room for the high school. The middle school is going to take the other band room. And we're going to raise that ceiling to his specifications so we get what we need to project in that space. But it's a really ambitious plan. We're also looking at demolishing a portion of the building in order to widen the classroom spaces for the middle school. Obviously, flooring, furniture, flexible seating, right, for the kids. Dedicated larger science classrooms. It's really going to be a beautiful campus. And so due to COVID, right, with the 2020 bond, there were plans for this work, but just due to price escalation post-COVID, we couldn't make those dollars stretch enough, and we poured as much as we could into our new elementary school building and new lower. And so this bond would afford us the opportunity to do new construction on this campus, on the high school, middle school campus. So we've received approval from the Department of Treasury, and I think we shared that at our last committee meeting. And so now it's just a matter of the board resolution tonight to vote. If it's approved, then we would take that and we would file it with the Oakland County Elections Department. And we'll go from there with our campaign.
I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8.2, the request to approve the 2025 bond proposal resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie,
Second.
seconded by Lisa. Any discussion on the motion?
Other than to say, thank you. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to being able to get the work done at the secondary level to continue the transition of learning from early to secondary. So this will be exciting, and I look forward to hearing about the plans about the campaign.
Can we get a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hot off the press. It'll be on the website in a couple minutes. As soon as you vote, yes.
Back to roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Hart?
Yes.
Kaiser?
Yes.
Mulner?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Crumrine?
Yes.
De La Bond?
Yes.
Byrne, I'm sorry. And President Dookie?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 7 yes votes, the motion passes, and the request to approve item 8.2, the request to approve the 2025 bond proposal resolution is approved. Sorry. Thank you. You're welcome. Brings us to item 9, superintendent's update.
I'm about to calm myself down a little bit. I'm so excited after that vote.
But good evening again. As mentioned, Bond, and what you saw was an example of some of the work behind the scenes that we've been doing around bond communications. We wanted to be ready with some very, very clear communications for voters to be able to see exactly what we are hoping to do with the bond dollars. So that was an exact example of what we will begin with sharing with the community very, very large in a loud way. Also, in addition to a dedicated space on our website for bond communications, I will be beginning a tour of all of the buildings to make sure that we have informed staff members, right? And more than just the middle school, high school buildings. Of course, anything that's going on in the district is everyone needs to be aware of it. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of what we're hoping to do and how they can support with those efforts. So that will be a very big push in the month of February and things that we've been preparing for behind the scenes. We have also, as we get prepared for bond, we have been definitely focused on external communications. It is my hope that you have noticed more increase in social media as well as external communications. We want to make sure that we are concise, clear, transparent, and providing regular communications. So that has absolutely been a focus of mine alongside and with the support of Mr. Tolber as well as Mrs. Wright. As it relates to pillar goals, I mentioned at the committee of the whole meeting that in addition to having the pillars, we now have goals, and we have rolled out in our last principals meetings what those goals look like based on the feedback from the committee, the pillar committee that has been developed. So we'll be looking forward to providing updates of our progress towards those goals now that we have them. I'll talk about this also in, looks like agenda item 10, but the dynamic plan process based on some feedback and as a result of our strategy development team feedback, we, when I say we, I mean Mrs. Wright, myself, are working with Dr. Peterson, our dynamic plan facilitator, on the development of a strategic action plan. Strategic action team, right? So it's great to develop the goals, develop the strategy, but there will have to be a very clear line of what those key actions will look like. So that team will be comprised of course, all of the leaders, community members, board members, staff, and students as well. So that is the biggest highlight that we have since we last met. We are also looking forward to another strategy development team meeting this week. It has been very interesting to monitor anything related to the legislation. Without being too brief, we've been very much so focused on earned sick time. That's definitely something we've been monitoring, any changes to that and the impact to our staff that could be impacted by any of those changes. Also, if you have not been aware, we are absolutely paying close attention to PA 196, which takes the work permits out of the schools, and it is now a function of the state of Michigan. I'm very concerned about that. I don't want students to have any holdup when they are trying to get jobs. But every communication that we've had with legislators, they continue to say that they are ready to take that on immediately. So that is something that is new, very hot off the press, that work permits are now officially out of school buildings completely. We have no voice, no anything with work permits. Good times. Also, we have been working behind the scenes on the policy transition, so moving from Neola to Troon. While we are doing first reads at Committee of the Whole, we want to make sure that we come prepared and are aware of some recommended changes We want to make sure that we are reviewing the TRUM policies and we are aware. So that has definitely been something that with the leadership of Tom Shelton, we have been working towards behind the scenes. In addition to policy transition, we are also fully engaged in the rollout of our new code of conduct. What we are doing is having a very intentional focus on making sure that the staff understands the key changes to the code of conduct with the full intention of rolling out in totality based on feedback, because after we roll it out and make sure that staff understand it, there may be some additional feedback. So we are still absolutely accepting some feedback if there's something that when we roll it out or we provide it to the staff again, they may have some thoughts of this is not a good implementation. We want to make sure that they have voice and we can make some adjustments before full rollout in the fall. But again, we want to make sure that we're taking time to educate our educators with the intention of also having opportunities for our community members to learn a lot more about what the current code of conduct entails. So that planning has been going on behind the scenes, with February 5th, our PD Day, as a key opportunity to fully engage our staff around the code of conduct and the changes. I believe that is it as a summary of the superintendent's update.
All right, that brings us, any questions?
One question.
Yes.
Students seeking work permits are supposed to go to Secretary of State.
I will find out the exact office. It was one I had never heard of.
Oh, here.
So it may be a new office,
Okay.
but I will ensure that I have that information.
All right,
Yeah,
can we include that in like the
sure.
e-blast whenever you have
Absolutely,
it?
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Fine.
Okay, any other questions?
Can I ask?
Sure.
Because I don't know.
Sure.
The code of conduct is, like, when do we get to see that? Or
Oh,
has it already happened?
It's already
Yeah,
happened.
okay.
No, it's there. It just, we went through a pretty substantial review process last school year. Then it was an even more lengthy process to have the legal review. So right now we're still in the midst of rolling out and making sure that the staff, it has been board approved, but we wanted to make sure that the staff were very educated. But I can give copies, but it is the same copy that is uploaded on the website. But I will make sure that we,
board approved, but board reviewed,
right.
because we don't have to approve.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
conduct.
Thank you for that. You're right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Item 10, dynamic strategic plan update.
Good evening again. I mentioned this previously in the superintendent's update, but the biggest updates is that we have had some intense conversations about do we have the right people at the table, and ensuring that we have the people at the table who are able to take the next steps towards actions, hence the development of the strategy action team. I will have more details upon our next one-on-one or two-on-one for Deputy Superintendent Wright and myself with Dr. Peterson. Once we get to the phase of who needs to be on that team, it will absolutely be a discussion with the board. We want to make sure that you are as informed as possible, but also have voice on who might be the members or at least the stakeholders that need to be at the table and a part of that team. We do have a strategy development team meeting this week as well, which we are very much looking forward to, getting to the next phase of the data story and learning more about what our next steps might be. So after this week, it will be definitely lots of updates based on those two things.
Any of the board members who are on the strategic plan committee have anything to add to that?
No, we haven't really met since the last board meeting.
Okay.
Because we did talk about the retreat, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the retreat.
Right. Item 11, informational items. 11.1, budget to actual report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is the budget to actual report for December 31st, 2024. The first column on this is the original budget, and then which was adopted in June of 2024. The middle column is the actual expenses, and the balance is the balance. And then the percent remaining is either 12/31, 24, or 23. And so we, at this time, you can see we're at, if you go down to the bottom at total expenditures, we're about even with last year, spending wise, but we are up in some categories. The numbers to the right there, A, under pupil support services, that's, there was a teacher consultant in the original budget that was not hired. And then we just hired a psychologist in November. And under transportation, there's a variance there. And that is because in prior year, we had a bus. So the expense from last year was higher because we bought a bus. And if you look on the I, in the community services line, there's a variance there because last year GSRP was included in the community service line, and now it's up in instruction because we converted 2 Little Eagles classrooms from community services to GSRP. So now it's in instruction versus community services. Any questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12, consideration of any full consent agenda items. We didn't have any. Item 13, our next committee of the whole is Monday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. Our next regular board meeting is Monday, February 24th at 7 p.m., which brings us to Eagles Points of Pride or comments.
I'll go first. Only one?
Yes.
Hard choice, but mine is actually about tonight. It was back to the Chartwell's mid-year presentation. Again, kudos to you guys. I just want to say that from the previous presentations to seeing this one, I was very blown away with the intentionality of student focus in this team, on the, like, wanting to do the focus groups, getting the feedback from not only the students but the staff as well, I think was a really big thing that resonated with me, but also seeing all of the programs that you have that allow the students to have more of a voice in like what they're eating and having a say, and also learning about what they're eating. Last year when I went to like the conference and spoke to Chartwell's, and I brought some of this information back, so it is good to see like a lot of these things being put in place and the children actually enjoying it. So just want to give a really big shout out to the entire food service team.
Thank you. I'll definitely share it.
Of course. That is it.
I'll go. I want to shout out the entire administration. As a new board member, outside of learning the difference between yes and here, I'm realizing with all the emails I get and the updates I get, I'm incredibly impressed through the weekly updates, the amount of work the administration does on a daily and weekly basis. Those updates are mind-blowing. It's not like I didn't think before they hit it, but when it's in print and you see it, it's incredible. All of them. The amount of work they do on a weekly and daily basis just blows me away. So I just really want to, it was kind of ironic that it was today, but you know, I can't tell you how impressed I am with the administration of this district.
Thank you. I'll go next. I had something for my point of pride, but after seeing the, I'm gonna steal yours as well. After seeing the Chartwell's presentation, that's my point of pride because I've seen the evolution of where we've come through the past 9 years working with Chartwell's, and kudos to you and your team. I'm really encouraged by everything that Jonathan shared and the fact that there's an increase in students eating. I would love to see how that correlates to our scores, because sometimes I wonder if our students are not getting breakfast, does that affect how they're testing? So if there's a 15% increase in students eating breakfast, I'm hopeful that there is a correlation to the test scores going up as well. And I remember years ago when we renovated the Ferndale High School cafeteria, the board members had lunch in the cafeteria. I would love for us to do that again, that you now have a new menu.
I want to go on Indian Day.
So that's
I want Build-A-Burger.
I'll jump in next. The Royal Extension Show hosts a really great MLK Day celebration. Great lineup of speakers. Your man just crushed it every time he got up to sing, even though it wasn't on. The day was highlighted by our superintendent, Camille, who did a really inspiring keynote speech, which I know is always tough. You did a great job. And I also don't want to forget that Felicia was also up there, giving a really great intro as well, really representing the school district really well. Both of you, so both of you committed for taking time out and your kids were so well behaved too.
Thank you. I'll keep going, shining the light on our fearless leader. For those of us who work in the schools, I work for Wayne County ISD. Last week was wild times. There was a lot of hard and fast news coming, and for those of us in the schools, there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was a lot of just changes happening and things going on. And I think Superintendent Hibbler did a really beautiful, proactive, restorative job of offering leadership and guidance to our community in the spirit of protecting our kids and just offering guidance to our staff. There was a lot of uncertainty for teachers and leaders everywhere around the whole country. And I just want to commend you for the job that you did and the beautiful message that you put out to our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, it's me now. I would like to give a little announcement reminder to everybody that we have the coolest fundraiser ever here. It is the Parent Talent Show. It's coming up next Friday, the February 7th. Some have referred to it as Parents Gone Wild. It's a really fun time. It's at the Loving Touch, and it is a fundraiser put on by the Ferndale Elementary Connections Group. Spoiler alert, I will be performing. So if you want to see one of your board members come out, it's called Just for Kicks. It is February 7th at the Loving Touch.
What time?
Doors are at 7 and it starts at 8. There's bands. I think last year there was a mime, which was hilarious. There was stand-up comics, there's singing, there's dancing, there's sketches. It's a really good time, and it's a fantastic fundraiser.
Okay, so I'll go next. I'll piggyback on Mr. DeLaBerge in that the Martin Luther King celebration at Tri-County Educational Center that was hosted by Royal Oak Township was absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't attended, please attend. Plan to attend next year. Our House representatives were there, right? Last year we had the same full house. We had the Lieutenant Governor there. It really was a good time, and I'm extremely proud of Superintendent Camille Hibbler. I'm a crier. I tell everybody that. I don't look like it, but I cry every time I think about her. I'm so proud of her. And the work that we're doing here in Ferndale, it really does mean a lot to her and also to me.
Okay. I would like to acknowledge the board for Board Appreciation Month. I forgot who said it, but Ms. Peru, you put it perfectly. I sit in a lot of meetings with a lot of superintendents in and out of the county, and I can assure you that their boards do not function as well as this board does. Their boards are not as supportive and professional as you all are, and just have a genuine, I think that what makes this board so unique is just like the passion that you have for our students. I see it, even those of you who are newly appointed to the board or elected to the board, I see it and I hear it in everything that you say, in your actions and your words. And I'm just very appreciative. It makes all the world of a difference. It makes my job, our job, so much easier. Just so you know, we are very inspired by each and every one of you, and very, very appreciative of everything you do for our district. So thank you.
All right, I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna piggyback on, I'm actually gonna do two, so don't shoot me. One is, I'm gonna piggyback on Lisa's letter that the superintendent sent out. I think as a board, in our role, one of the things that we can do is enact policy. And so I'm going to share I think the board is in a position where we can pass a resolution and implement a policy that backs up the letter that Superintendent Hibbler put out, so that it's not just her guidance, it's our policy. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just, I too work in education. I have worked for a lot of boards, have had the privilege to sit at this board, and I agree with Camille. Many people think that boards are crazy, and in some places they are. We are fortunate, even in the turnover, to not have a crazy board. So I appreciate sitting here with all of you. And with that, we are adjourned at 8:56. Thank you.